And that jarring cacophony tells you you're back with the Power of Three podcast. Here we are. It's the release of the latest Doctor Who The Collection week, as we have season 21 sitting on many of our shelves. I've got it in mine. It came yesterday. Hurrah! I was rather excited, but I couldn't look at it until after I'd finished work. Frustrating. It's funny how they won't let me watch Doctor Who on work time. Weird. Anyway, that doesn't matter. I'm Kenny Smith, and I'm joined today by my pal from up the road, my former work colleague, and generally all-round sound dude.
Hi Kenny, it's Stevie here. Hello everyone. Sorry, my voice is a little croaky. I must have some kind of Mavellan virus.
That sounded more like K9 in Destiny of the Daleks.
Yes. Yes, that's about all we had, wasn't it?
That's pretty much it, yes. But we're not talking season 17 today.
No, we're not.
We're talking season 21 and a lost story from season 21. But we're not going to talk about that just yet because, Stevie, tell us how you marked the release of season 21, because you haven't ordered the box set.
Well, I haven't ordered the box set. There more important things to spend money on, I feel, but at the moment. But, you know, my pals, my Power of Three pals, I'm going to adopt a sad voice here, my Power of Three pals all on the WhatsApp Power of Three chat, happily receiving and delighting in their season 21 box sets and gloating over them and crying over them, and well, I haven't got one. However, it didn't stop me from enjoying and joining in with all of you guys to watch the non-special, non-re-edited, non-added resurrection of the Daleks. So episode 1, I have to say, I'm pacing myself. I haven't seen episode 2 yet.
Oh, we're talking, this is the 45-minute version, or the 50-minute version, rather than the 4-parter.
Which is how it should be, because that's how it was very much designed, I feel.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I always found the fantastic comments from Mark Ayres in our season 21 preview, episode 1 last week was interesting about his work on that.
It was very interesting, and how it was constructed, wasn't constructed, how they were putting it together, what they were thinking. Do you know, lots of people diss both episodes, but I think it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good story, and it's one of the ones I had recorded on audio. Very technical, this, you know, telly didn't have any jack outputs or anything, so it was a tape recorder right next to the speaker, not too close, not too far away, recording levels set right, and me looking daggers at anyone who came into the room because I didn't want any interruption. And then that tape would play for the next however many years and be lodged in my brain forever. I can almost, but maybe you'll put me to task on this, if you give me a scenario and a line, I can probably just about tell you what the next line is.
Okay, what's Stein's line when the Doctor's being put in the probe and Stein's standing and he's got his hands in his head? What is he saying? Oh
no, can't do that. Let's do episode 1. Give me episode 1.
Okay. Oh, crikey. See, I haven't watched it in ages because I've been deliberately holding off so I can watch the Blu-ray version.
Okay. One of my favourite lines as the door slides open. Gods, I am very difficult to kill. You should remember that. Always sticks with me, and I've always liked the Lytton character. And of course, I can't remember the character's name, but it's Dirty Den from EastEnders.
Yes, Kiston.
He has proved himself a competent engineer. So I'll just keep him until I run out of uses for him.
Yeah.
I always did wonder, from Genesis to Destiny, obviously there had been no firmware upgrades, software upgrades on Davros's chariot. Yep. And then I imagine there wasn't much of time for an upgrade between trial and freezing. So I've always wondered, whether that little device he uses to control people and Daleks, did he have that all the way in Genesis, and is that why Nyder and others were so subservient to him? I mean, forget about the Big Finish audio, which I love. Oh, boy, I love.
I Davros is amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Listeners, if you haven't heard I Davros, go to Big Finish, grab it. But I do wonder whether that little brain control thing was always there.
I hadn't thought of that. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of Davros's chair getting an upgrade, so it's chariot.
Chariot, yes.
Now you have got me thinking, like, he must have surely had something there to help those who are less compliant with his will.
Yes. Must have been there, because there wasn't the time. I mean, possibly the time between Destiny, Trial and Freezing. It doesn't seem likely, does it? Not
really. It's not the sort of thing that you're likely to do for a prisoner. Let's upgrade their chariot.
Yes.
Just let's be nice to them when we're going to freeze them anyway. So
I've got a copy of Windows 95. Do you think it'll run it? This Davros you're attempting to access is failing to respond. Would you like to retry?
Abort, retry, fail.
Fail. Definitely fail.
Definitely a fail. Oh, I love it. I love it. I do love season 21. And I really enjoyed our chat a few weeks ago when we had a look at The Zeldin, a story that was submitted by William Emms for this series, but ultimately never picked up on. And of course, this lovely Blu-ray box set contains The Zeldin, and indeed another William Emms story outline, The SCI, spelled SCI. And of course, that is an acronym for Social Consciousness Implant. So, Stevie, why don't we listen to the story, which has been brought to life by our fantastic regular team of readers?
I have to say, a really fantastic team of readers, Kenny, and excellent sound effects.
Well, you may say that. Why don't we let the listeners judge for themselves, and we'll play it now?
Can we just say to them that there's not a typewriter in sight?
Doctor Who and the SCI. Setting. This takes place on the planet Aldon. Its inhabitants are the same as human beings, but it has been discovered that a tiny implant in the brains of babies renders them totally non-aggressive. That it also renders them, therefore, incapable of original thought, or indeed of the questioning that leads to it, is regarded as of no importance. Peace is all. Thus, all babies have the implant, Social Consciousness Implant, SCI, and all is tranquil, or would be were it not that some misfired and a race of aberrants developed to live in the storm drains and cable viaducts beneath the surface. Another complication has also developed. The only ones who do not have SCI are the rulers of the planet, led by Sardi. They control the computers which control the people, even to compelling them to hospital if they suffer any pain whatsoever. Under the rulers, the computers control everything and everyone. Doctor Who and the SCI, Part 1. Who, Tegan and Turlough appear on the planet Aldon. They are approached by several people and Turlough gets nervous, actually striking one of them who gets too close. To their amazement, the man simply turns and walks away. Their queries are answered by the explanation that he has gone to the hospital, having suffered pain. They are persuaded that the Aldons mean no harm and are escorted to Sardi, though Tegan and Turlough feel uneasy at the tranquility of their escorts, who, however, waves their fears aside. What's to be afraid of in peaceful people? It isn't long before they find out, when they are introduced to Sardi, in fact. He is by no means friendly, and points out that on their planet, which has known peace for centuries, strangers are not welcome. Who wants to know why, and is told that their mental attitudes could damage the equilibrium of the race. Since they are here, they will all have to undergo SCI. Who soon gleans what that is, and the party is horrified, not least because, as Who points out, once you delete the possibility of original thought, then you've brought about the end of everything. Certainly, there is no war, no poverty, no want. But the obverse side of the coin is that there isn't any progress either, in fact, an end to history. Sadi and his aide lead our group away to await the SCI operation. But they aren't there long because a burly man, Kazel, appears and gets them out. He has no trouble in doing this, simply pushing people aside if they get in the way. He briefly explains that he knew of their arrival because it was broadcast on the video system, which he is tapped into. They get out, and Kazel takes them down into the storm drains and cable ducts. Here they are warned to be careful of the aberrants, and suddenly a group of them appears. They are ugly and menacing, and corner our group.
Part 2. Kazel gets them out of the corner by firing shots over the head of the aberrants, and takes them to the lair he has built with materials stolen from above. Here they meet Kezel's wife, Darlo, and their 2 sons, Velos and Diva. These are the only normal survivors. What Who wants to know is how Kazel became normal and how he made Darlo the same. Kazel tells of how he started to get headaches and was examined, ref here to the omnipresent computer, but he doesn't know what the examination revealed because it was all top secret. He just grabbed Darlo and ran, totally opposed to SCI and what he then saw it had done to his people. Sadi is now having some men normalised so that they can pursue and eliminate our group. Kazel he has been able to tolerate, but an additional 3 is altogether too much. Normalisation is to temporarily remove the soothing effect of the SCI, but leave it active so that it can stimulate other emotions, such as that to kill. Who has to get to that computer, and there is only one way to do it. But Sadi is expecting them. Who and Kazel gain entry reasonably easily, but the computer has tracked them, and he awaits them with 2 armed guards. They are trapped.
Part 3.
At this, Kazel becomes furious. His eyes widen, and suddenly the guards are helpless, the guns dropping from their hands. Who and Sadi are riveted by this, but Sadi is compelled to show them the readout on Kazel's examination. It reveals only that extra brain cells have grown about his SCI insert, but Who begins to suspect the answer. The rest of the group, however, have been taken by surprise by the aberrants and are now prisoners. The aberrants are determined to revolt against the SCIs. The situation now, of course, is that the SCIs are civilised, though arrested, while the aberrants are primitive and in a murderous mood. Which side do we take? The aberrants insist that their prisoners, being of more normal appearance than they are, should help them. It's simple enough. They must smash the SCI control centre and bring everything to a halt. They will hold Darlo as hostage. They are shown where the centre is and sent off to destroy it. But they can't just do that, and they know it. It is, after all, possible that the SCIs might just go insane if their inserts are rendered inert. Then not only will happen to them, but also to Who, Kazel and Darlo. At this point, Who makes an error. His back and Kazel's are turned to the door when another guard comes in. He knocks out Kazel, then captures Who. Sadi observes that since Who is obviously a man of great knowledge, if he were converted to a SCI, he could be of great help to them. After all, he points out reasonably enough, Who has said that their history is at an end. Then let him start it moving again. Under control, of course.
Part 4. The other party encounter more guards and are pursued and fired upon, but still succeed in making their way nearer to the center. The aberrants can see much of what goes on above because they too are tapped into the computer audio-visual system. Darlow, still a prisoner, watches the aberrants observe their party, then see them grow angry as the party diverges, having themselves seen Doctor Who and Kessel being taken into the surgery. They begin to mutter amongst themselves and cast dangerous looks at her. Who and Kessel are now strapped into surgical chairs, Kessel still unconscious. As Sardi watches, an operative guides the machinery gently in towards their heads, under the guns of the guards. Now just outside, our party watches on a viewer. They realize that against the guns of the guards they are totally helpless. The surgical machinery glides in. The aberrants begin to move on Darla with murderous intent. At first she is frightened, but then her eyes widen into the same stare as Kessel's, and they shrink away from her. One of her sons wishes Darla were there to help them. She would certainly devise some sort of plan. But Darlow senses their plight and raises her head, eyes still staring. The boys lift theirs, receiving their strength, then burst in and save Doctor Who and Kessel at the last moment. Sardi is, of course, terrified, but, released now, Doctor Who points out what has happened. The psi implants were so much against nature that Kessel's brain grew extra cells to combat his. Without his realizing it, he also developed a mental power over others, including Darlow, for there was no other reason why she should have run off with Kessel, unless he had somehow and unwittingly neutralized her psi. Thus, nature has ensured that 4 people have this surmounting power for a start, and it looks as though Kessel is now in charge, doesn't it? Sardi has no choice but to agree, and Kessel says he will start returning things to normal immediately with his newly discovered power. He will even be able to deal with the aberrants and start the wheels of progress once more. Our 3 return to the TARDIS and take off for their next adventure.
Introduction in Part 1 read by Craig Brawley, Part 2 by James Hadwin Bennett, Part 3 by Peter Watson, and Part 4 by Ken Moss. Music by Peter Howe. And there we go. So huge thanks again to all of our readers, to the fantastic Craig, to James, to Peter from the Earth2 podcast at gmail.com, and of course Ken Moss as well. So lovely stuff, guys. I thank you, and we may have some more work for you in the near future. I have a couple of things in mind. I've got plans involving you.
They definitely need more work. I don't mean that in a bad way. That sounds terrible. They are very talented. They need to work.
So, Stevie, what did you think of this adventure on the planet Alden?
Yeah, it's an adventure. No, let's be honest. This one grabbed me a bit more than the Zeldon did. I can pick it apart because, again, it's pre-show ready. But it had a wee bit of a... I can't quite understand why I've written this, but it had a wee bit of a Logan's Run feel about it.
Okay.
Sort of that kind of controlled society, happy with its lot. Everyone's happy apart from... Well, I'm assuming those that are ruling are happy. It's difficult to tell. Because I think the flaw in it for me, and I'm sure this had been ironed out, was the fact that they had this wee chip that they put into babies that removed their aggressiveness and questioning nature and learning, which means that they would all be pretty dumb from that. But then it seems to be that their leader, Sardi, can just kind of cancel that all out, and somehow they know how to be aggressive and shoot guns and things. That was the bit that I didn't quite work for me. I couldn't work out, I couldn't quite work out where they were going with that. That's one, if that had come to fruition, I would have been challenging them on that. I'd have been going, do you know, Kenny, I'm not sure about this. But I mean, it's a fairly good romp. There's something wrong around about the episode 3 design, which I'm not sure about, because I kind of lost interest and couldn't work out what was going on, and then we were into episode 4 and it all seemed to make sense, but I kept going back to episode 3, something not quite right in the makeup there. I don't know if that you picked up on that, or maybe that was just me.
No, it's not just you. I found it sort of like blink and you miss it, because when I re-listened to it just before we started recording here, it just was gone before you know it. It's very short. I mean, in the outline, it runs to, I think it's like 5 paragraphs altogether. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs, whereas the others are all 10 plus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, this sounded like a Star Trek original series sort of plot. Here we go, we turn up on the planet, there's the brain control, I suppose in a bit like Keys of Marinus in some ways.
Yeah.
But I'd imagine that, when the aberrants show up, they'd basically be played by a bunch of men in space nappies going,
Sorry, what were they doing?
It sounds like a Glaswegian on a Saturday night after one pint too many. It's a bit Rapsy Nesbitt. And it just, to me, felt very generic sci-fi story with the elements of there's brain control, taking away your personal freedom. And, I mean, there's the last line that Craig gave us there, under the rulers, the computers control everything and everyone. And also said to me, that's TikTok.
Yeah. I think you're bang on when you talk about a typical Star Trek thing, because I think the some of the easiest outlines to write is probably let's try and do it simply off the cuff. There's one lot of people who are subjugating another lot of people, and there's a third lot of people that don't like it. In Harry Hill style, let's see, the other one way to sort it out, fight, and then the resolution is sometimes a bit kind of makes sense. You think, well, that's okay, and then you think about it and you think, what? And insert Jim and Spock and Bones, or Dr. Tegan Turlough, or the cast of Firefly, or whatever. Anything could, Firefly being topical, Kenny, anything that insert any characters in, and I do. It makes me look and think about what I read, but also when I try to write things, it's so easy to fall into that, isn't it? It's so easy to fall into sort of easy bottle episodes, ship in a bottle tropes, and sometimes not step out. But again, got to be fair, in later drafts of this, that would probably have changed mightily.
Yeah. I
do find, though, that with all these things we see, the characters of who Turlough and Tegan are very much not. I don't see the characters properly. Nothing like this actually grabs the fact that it's just the way it's written. But Turlough strikes one of the people. It's like, what? Did you just walk out and punch him?
Yeah, because there's so little for Tegan and Turlough to do. They're hardly mentioned in the plot. I mean, you'd imagine they'd be. One of them would be getting in with the rebels to rouse them, and the other would encounter the aberrants in their space nappies going, and would befriend them and discover they're actually not so terrible at all.
Yeah.
Even though the script describes them as they are ugly and menacing and probably wear space nappies or space diapers.
But their mothers probably love them.
That's very true. But they are aberrants, and of course they've had their brains operated on and things have gone wrong. And it just, I mean, so much of it's the fact that we learn that Darlow is the traitor, and it's just, there's still so few characters in there, and it's like, if there's somebody's going to betray, it's quite clear who it's going to be. Yeah,
and regrowing brain cells is quite a neat trick, and nature sorting it all out. Well, good on nature. But I do think on a planet like this, if it's got storm drains and cable runs, okay, somebody who built them obviously didn't have one of these chips in there, because if you're doing cable runs, as nice as you can be, you do get aggressive. I mean, it's just the thing about cable runs. Sometimes it just goes wrong and you find yourself effing and blinding at inanimate bits of metal that got in your way, stabbed you, slashed your thumbs. It's just a fact of life. So, well, maybe I need an implant. Maybe this is the thing. Maybe I need one of these inserted. So next time I'm laying a cable, I go, oh, cable's fallen to the floor. Oh, it doesn't matter, Stevie. We'll get another one. Oh, that cable's bent and the fitting's broke. Oh, it's okay. I'll get another one.
Yeah.
I don't think that job would ever get finished.
Yeah, I suspect it wouldn't. Something I want to go through here are the cliffhangers, and I'll just go through them one by one. They get out, and Kessel takes them down into the storm drains and cable ducts. Here, they are warned to be careful of the aberrants, and suddenly a group of them appears. They are ugly and menacing, and corner our group. Episode 1, cliffhanger. Episode 2, who has to get to that computer? And there's only one way to do it, but Sardi is expecting them. Who and Kessel gain entry reasonably easily, but the computer has tracked them, and he awaits with 2 armed guards. They are trapped. Episode 3, we get the cliffhanger of, after all, he points out reasonably enough, who has said their history is at an end, and then they let him start it moving again, under control, of course, because at this point they're threatening to put the chip into his head.
Yeah.
And it's just, these are all absolute typical Doctor Who sci-fi cliffhangers. They just all feel so familiar. They're just generic Doctor Who, to use that ghastly term, tropes.
Yeah. And they are. And if I was reading that, looking to commission, not that I would be, because that's not my job, but I wouldn't find that particularly exciting. I would think, oh, it's run of the mill. But then I would maybe have asked for that, just to put my own stamp on it. Could you read the bit at the beginning where they arrive on Eldon?
Yep, absolutely. Who, Tegan and Turlough, appear on the planet Alden.
Bing. Yes. Bing.
Yes, no mention there. Yes, they just sort of like rent a ghost with the.
Yes. They appear. Where are we, Doctor? What is it? Oh, sort of Mr. Ben technology. Bing.
Yep.
At the end, they get into the TARDIS and dematerialize. Great stuff. But I thought maybe, in my thoughts, maybe I thought there's a time ring thing going on here. Maybe there was another lost story, and they'd time ringed themselves to there after being told not to lose it, because if they did, they wouldn't get there and they couldn't get back to the TARDIS, kind of thing. Maybe
that's a good idea. Somebody should use that. Oh no, hang on a minute.
What's the line? I say this when I watch movies now. It says, "What's this? A time ring. Don't lose it. It's your lifeline." I think, well, that's going to get lost. There's a plot point.
Very much so. Yeah. No, I think that the Psi is. I think it's a lost story that probably best remaining lost. I think there's nothing very original about it. It just feels generic sci-fi show. And as you said, it could be Star Trek, it could be Firefly, it could be Doctor Who. And it's very, very 60s in its sort of storytelling. There's nothing in any way that feels slightly more modern or, some of the, influenced by some of the science fiction that's happened in between, whether in literary forms or in television. And it just feels 1950s, early 60s generic science fiction. And I think that's what makes it sort of just so unmemorable to me, because I actually had to listen to this twice just to take the plot in, because it was just, have I missed something? But no, it really is that simplistic.
I mean, I was on my 6th listen, to be honest with you, because I mean, it's not that I wasn't trying to pay attention.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to put it into a title as a sound effect, this show would be called. It has the same.
That sounds like a sigh, Stevie.
But I've got to be fair about this. I wasn't working for Doctor Who. I wasn't given the opportunity to write a short. I think this might work as a story. He was, and good on him. And again, how much time was he given? So you've got an hour, write it. So we shouldn't be too hard. I think coming up with original ideas back then to fit in with what is expected by controllers and suits and everything else would probably been really tricky. So it's not an excuse for something not working, but we've got to remember different times.
That's true. Putting it in context. Yeah. I mean, you have to be. I mean, I am being fair to it, but I just think even for the 80s, this would have felt tired. And we're talking. This is 3 years before Star Trek: Next Generation starts airing.
This is it, isn't it? The difference between. But then Star Trek had an awful lot more money, just a smidgen. But, you know, sometimes Doctor Who stories outshone it. Because I've always said it's about the writing. You can have as many effects as you want, but the writing is the most important thing. An engaging story will keep you coming back and back and back and back. But yeah. Different times, different money, what was available, and who was letting them do things, you know, the freedom they were getting or what they were being told to write. It would be interesting to take a favourite story that we like Resurrection, and see what the original outline was when it was at this stage. Now, it would have won us over already because it had Daleks in it. But, you know, how poor was that? How much was put into it to make it the story that personally I love? I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. But it would be interesting to take some really well-known stories and well-loved stories and see if we could find their very beginnings.
I think that's you basically saying, calling Richard Bignell, have you any PDFs here that could give us some info on this? Richard, if you're listening, you know where I am, drop us a line and let us know. It'd be fascinating. But I mean, I do think that the main factor to take in consideration here is that William Emms was somebody who did an awful lot of writing on TV in the 60s. And this is obviously him trying to get back on track. I mean, I think it was Dave who pointed out when we discussed the Zeldin that he's obviously had a bit of interest in Doctor Who again from doing his novelisation of Galaxy 4 and then doing his Doctor Who and the Imps, or that would be on the way very soon with the Choose Your Own Adventure. So he's definitely sort of resurrected that interest. Yeah. So it would be, I imagine it's come from there, but I think that perhaps time has moved on and there are new, younger, up-and-coming writers, people like Steve Gallagher, Christopher Bailey, who've got a different angle, the ones who've grown up with all of the stuff that the likes of William Emms did and others, but have now got this sort of fresh young approach and how to do things differently and take it forwards. But I mean, it's still worthy. I'm not knocking it for being classic traditional science fiction. That's what it is. And I recognise it for what it is, but I think the times they were changing by this point, and perhaps the day for this type of story had passed.
No, I agree. I agree. Things had to move on. And as much as we all didn't like the wilderness years, they were necessary for what we had, what we have now.
That's very true.
Without new adventures, without young fans becoming older fans, becoming writers, bringing back, you don't have a new edge. You don't have a new way to do it. And if you carry on doing things the way they've always been done, shows die.
Very much so. And that's such a shame because Andrew Cartmel did try and shake it up from 87 to 89 and
he did. And if there had been the impetus behind, if there had been the money behind, if you'd had the Star Trek money behind you, it could have been completely different. But then the TV movie could have been completely different. Say what you like about our beloved BBC. I love our BBC. I know it has its flaws and its good things and its bad things. But the one thing they do is they do try things and they put money into things and they give them normally a fair shot. Whereas American telly, if it's not working, well, you might reach pilot. You might not even reach half a season. But BBC mostly have said, no, we think this has got something, let's keep going, and they've kept going. And then you get a series like Ghosts, where most places would have said, nah, let's not bother with that after X number of episodes. Doctor Who, I feel, is the same. Blake 7 is the same. There's lots of stuff they've said, no, we're going to make a complete season.
Yeah.
And then it gets beloved by fans. You cannot do stuff piecemeal.
You're in or you're out, and that's it. Unfortunately, there's no experimenting really these days. The BBC will give things, or they did give things a go. I suppose something like Line of Duty was a modest hit when it started, and obviously it's gone on to become one of the biggest shows on TV, and people anticipate it. So
you look at Torchwood, you look at The War Between the Land and the Sea. At least they gave them a good go. and they got some good stuff out of it. May not continue. Class was an unfortunate thing, I feel. If Class had been allowed to extend, there could have been something really nice there.
See our interview with Derek Ritchie for more on that.
But I mean, even look at something like Space 1999. You know, 2 series.
Yeah.
And gone. Battlestar Galactica, 1 and a bit series. And gone.
Firefly. 13 episodes, was it? Something like that?
13 episodes. But animation. It's coming back in animation. It was announced this week. Check it out, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tricky. You've now got to get it right. Otherwise, that's it.
You're gone. Absolutely. Well, there we go. Stevie, thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure, Kenny. My voice has held out, which is even better.
I'm most impressed, and I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but I would like to remind listeners out there, if you've enjoyed today's episode, feel free to leave a review on your podcatcher of choice. You can follow us on social media at Power of 3 Pod with a number 3 on Twitter, at Finished Scene on Blue Sky, and of course, feel free to like our Facebook group where we share bonus content. And for this episode, we've got fake title graphics. How exciting is that?
We love fake title graphics.
Absolutely. So a big thanks to Will Brooks for creating those for us. What a lovely man he is. Stevie, anything else you want to give a mention to or plug?
Well, it's a birthday today. It's a big birthday today, and a big shout out to Mr. John Leeson.
Affirmative.
Happy birthday, Master. That was the only excuse I wanted. No, he's, I've been a fan of his for a long time. I've seen him in a lot of things. He obviously, for me, the first time I realised who he was K9, but 83, happy birthday.
Absolutely. Happy birthday to you, Mr. K9 man.
Huge part of Doctor Who,
yep.
In many ways.
An absolute living legend. So, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Well, we're at the end, and it's time, of course, Stevie, to depart with a song. And I did say to you before we started recording, I had one in mind.
You did, and I said, don't tell me what it is. So, bye, Kenny. Oh, sorry. You're going to tell me now.
Well, I thought we'd go with a song by a fellow Scot. And do you remember the band Orange Juice?
Of course I do, Kenny. They were a favourite of mine back in the 70s, 60s, 50s, and 90s, and early 2000s.
Well, what about their lead singer was, of course, Edwyn Collins, who had that great track, A Girl Like You, with that wonderful guitar riff in it.
Oh, yes, of course. I remember that well from the 1970s, 80s.
Yep.
More?
Stevie doesn't know a lot about music. What he does know, he loves passionately. But
yes,
we're going to go with a track from Edwyn Collins, and this one is called A Heavy Sigh. S-I-G-H rather than SCI. That's it, exactly. Stevie, thanks so much. Listeners, we will be back with you very soon. In fact, we might be back sooner than you think, because could we have a bonus making of season 21 and Blu-ray episode coming this Saturday?
It's an episode, but possibly not the one you were expecting.
Very good.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
The bells are ringing across London town, but I'm never gonna hear those bells resound. But I'm quite content here on the underground, going down, traveling round. And I'm never going back to where the dirty river flows, and where the neon dusk explodes and tears the twilight out the sky, where compassion fades and dies, with a heavy sigh.